Good afternoon, welcome to Modern Via Dolorosa. Happy Australian Day, happy Indian Independence Day. I'm Australian and Indian, so I do take pride in both as it's a public holiday and I get to spend time with my family. And one of the things I like to spend time doing today is giving you guys a book review. And that book is called Tactics by Greg Koukl. People walk into my house and think I'm even more pathetic than they initially thought because they thought it was a chess book. Try-harding in chess. I love chess, but what this book actually is not a chess book. It's a game plan for discussing your Christian convictions. Now, what is tactics and action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end? And some keywords I'd like to attribute to this book is apologetics, polemics, evangelism, conversation, discussion, debate, argument. You can look all these up for yourself, but I'll quickly breeze through apologetics. Apologetics is reasoned arguments or writings in justification of Christianity. In other words, a defense, and we are instructed to utilize it in our evangelism. But how do we do that? I think Peter explains that the best in his first book, in the third chapter. But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect. You can read the rest for yourself. You can read the Bible for yourself. Now, as you can see here, the Bible communicates clearly, God's word communicates clearly that we are to have apologetics and to have a reasoned defense equipped with us whenever we're going around evangelizing and trying to spread the good news. Now, what situation was I in order to find this book attractive and to be in a position to recommend tactics to you guys? Well, first, I'm a follower of Christ. I hold claims. And as you know, when you hold claims, other people, they like to critique those claims, and it's completely fine by them, but they do it using assertions. Now, whenever these assertions were put against me, I immediately interpreted it as, it's my job to take down those assertions. It's my job to refute and defeat those assertions way before the critic even backed them up in the first place. And instead, all they did was make the assertion, and I decided to take the hard work and the workload on myself. But actually, it's the critic's job to back up the assertions. Now, what that means is that I often actually was in a position where I was trying to break down and hack down an opposing claim that never stood up in the first place. Now, this put me obviously in a very unnecessarily defensive situation. What this book did. Now, with the specific problem, Greg Koukl identified a response which is best used in testing if an assertion stands. Now, a quote that he uses is, instead of giving our critics a free ride by letting them make assertions they expect us to refute, we make them defend their own beliefs or unbeliefs, and we do that using questions, okay? Questions. This is, I think, the philosophy, or I'd say the central tactic of this book is the utility of questions. Now, this is one of the many tactics provided by Koukl to arm Christian apologetics in conversations. Now, this tactic is the second variation of Columbo mentioned in chapter 5. Now, I'd like to say that there are many tactics other than Columbo, but really it's Columbo and a lot of the other tactics mentioned in this book. They orbit around Columbo. Now, what they aren't are tactics for manipulation and fallacy, and they are not escape routes. Actually, the tactics in this book, they help you identify when the other person is trying to manipulate, use fallacious reasoning, and trying to escape a topic that they haven't provided defense for. And the tactics in this book, again, utilizes questions to bring to bring those into the light, as obviously everyone knows who guiltily uses fallacy. It's not a nice thing when you're using fallacy and someone calls it out, you know. Now, who is this book for? Anyone who will be in a conversation about their Christian convictions in the future. In other words, it should be all of you who claim to be followers of Christ. This book is for you. And obviously, I'm not a fan of some of these conversations when it results in people getting angry and mad. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that. Actually, I'd say the motto of a part of this book is, if someone gets mad, I have lost. Greg clearly communicates that when someone gets mad, it is a sign of essentially zero progress in the actual essence of why we defend ourselves and why we bring reason to the table when talking about our Christian convictions. So if, like right now, what I think is, if someone else is mad when I discuss Christian convictions, then I have lost, and I don't want them to be mad. So what these tactics are not is they are not derived from Christianity. They are derived from truth. They're questions, right? They're derived from truth. And because Christianity is true, this book only works in favor of followers of Christ. Now, how does it do that? Questions. So if there was one sentence to describe my experience of this book, it would be this. Tactics is the best strategy compilation on how to use and place questions in a discussion, argument, or debate so that the conversation is progressing towards the truth, in other words, Christianity. Now, what were my takeaways? I spent the last month or so engaging in more conversation, and during this conversation, instead of taking assertions on my back and doing the hard work, I instead press the critics themselves on their assertions, and obviously most of the time it ends up baseless. And I've been seeing a lot of change and improvement in my discussion and even debates. Now, what I'm not, and I probably won't be for a while, is a debate king. So, and this is because these tactics, they take practice doing, and well, you see, they'll come as a habit, and it's as if you don't even need to memorize them. It'll just become your entire nature of questioning and discussion, some of these tactics, as you use them and pick them up bit by bit. Now, final conclusion, it's not really a conclusion, but what I want to take you guys to do, what I want to show you guys is actually a example of someone using tactics or Columbo, or in other words, questions, questions instead of taking on the paragraph on their back. So let me just quickly switch tabs. Okay. Now we'll notice the claim. So this guy in the hat, he's a critic, and he's pulling up the claim on the nature of God and assertion.
God is everywhere.
How do you know that? Why do you believe that?
I believe.
So he says God is everywhere all the time. Now this is an assertion. Now what I would have naturally done, like maybe 2 months ago, is I would have taken the effort in generating 2 paragraphs of reasoning why that is not the case, or why it's contradictory to the nature of God, all these sorts of things. We don't have to take on that hard work. In fact, what you'll see Cliff doing here is he will utilize questions and
God is everywhere.
How do you know that?
Pressing his belief.
Why do you believe that?
I just believe that. I believe he's an all-powerful force.
Okay.
So he says, why do you believe that? That is an example of the second variation of Columbo in chapter 5.
But why do you believe that?
Maybe since he's been on this earth for 20-some years, he has some input, and he gets the feeling that God is everywhere and that God is very powerful.
What is the evidence that whatever it is I believe is true? So why do you believe God's all-powerful? What's the
I
evidence?
feel it. I just feel it. It's just an all-powerful energy force. It's available.
Notice how Cliff, not this guy, the guy standing up, Cliff is using questions to press this guy's assertion.
It's available for you to use, and it does everything. It does all good and all bad, too.
Okay. How do you get in touch with this energy force?
Prayer.
Prayer?
Prayer is good.
Okay, so you pray to this all.
How do you get in touch is an example of the first variation of Columbo, which is utilized to gather information and for the critic to clarify their assertion.
All-powerful God who's...
Prayer is good.
Okay, so you pray to this all-powerful God who's all good and all evil, everything all combined?
Everything.
Well, what do you say to this all-powerful God?
You say thank you.
Thank you for being evil as well as good?
Exactly.
Why would you thank him for being evil?
Why would you thank him for being evil? This is an example of the third variation of Columbo, which we see in the Book of Tactics, and it's about using questions to make a point and to direct the conversation to essentially make a point.
Just because I thank him for everything.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good.
Well, if he's evil, how can he be good at the same time?
Because he's God. He's everything.
Okay, so is he part of God?
Yes.
He is.
Yes, everything.
And I'm part of God.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I haul back and slap him in the face. Part of God just hit part of God.
Now, what you'll notice about the next few questions, actually, I'll rewind here. he makes the claim that everyone's a part of God. Now, from this, Cliff switches gears into a tactic called taking the roof off, which we see in chapter 13. And taking the roof off is about reductio ad absurdum, which is bringing someone's belief into something so absurd that even they themselves wouldn't believe into it. And we'll see that path of questioning moving forward.
For God?
Yes.
He is.
Yes, everything.
And I'm part of God.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I haul back and slap him in the face. Part of God just hit part of God.
God's got a great sense of humor.
You find that to be humorous?
Sure.
You find Columbine to be humorous?
You have to.
You have to.
You just have to look at it that way.
You find Kosovo to be humorous?
Because it happened.
Mm-hmm. You find the rape of a woman to be humorous?
Got you, man.
You got one sense of humor, bud. Wow.
You just can't have good behavior.
Oh, I gotta go to work.
It is getting hot in the kitchen, isn't it? You better get out fast, bud. It's getting awful hot in here. I sure hope you think a little bit about what you said out here. I just hope you think about, did any of that stuff I said make real sense at all? Think. It's very, very healthy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful example of certain tactics. Now, what I want you guys to know is this video was way before the book Tactics ever was a thing. This is because Tactics, this book, is a compilation of essentially logically and intellectually honest strategies in directing a conversation towards truth. And this is what Cliff has been using for years. And yeah, this is in essence what Tactics is all about. Now, if we go back here, what I will say about Tactics is it has a lot of examples about arguments, but it's not intended to cover every argument you'll ever face. Instead, it provides a general set of tactics that you can use in every argument, okay? That's different to actually understanding the content of every argument. Now, let's say for something like using questions to make a point, you need to know what point you're trying to make. There's a prerequisite for this, meaning you need to understand the arguments you're trying to make. You need to somewhat have a basic understanding of the arguments other people are making. Now, Tactics intends in shaping your understanding in the form of questions so that people themselves are actually convicted. Now, if I just go out there and state 2 paragraphs of answer, that's not going to convict anyone. That's just going to, if anything, confuse everyone. Is going to confuse the discussion, which is why we use questions, and which is, again, another huge reason why I recommend this book. Now, if you want to actually understand arguments and learn the content, here are some channels you guys can check out for yourself. These are some on the top of my head. Cliff Neckley, I think, is one of the better examples in terms of he does university ministry where he goes out in public, pretty much sets up a board and asks everyone, okay, challenge me. And he does so in a loving and respectful way as instructed in 1 Peter chapter 3. Now, yeah, all these other channels are amazing. There's way more channels. These are just the ones on top of my mind. Yeah, as you guys know, this is Tactics, Greg Koukl, high recommendation. Make sure to subscribe, maybe even like the video, but yeah, definitely subscribe, yeah. And yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Have a nice Australia Day. Have a nice Indian Independence Day. Ciao.